appropriate and pass them on to you.
Let's filter them first, and then
Yeah. No, people will take. I'm just gonna set them afterwards because people will have to fill in first come first serve. I'll filter them based on what I think is appropriate. Okay, so if someone comes at the end and I think it's a reasonable question, I'll take that. Okay.
nice.
Do you have anything to
Go get just lean on a couple of pieces of paper. Just write it down. Done. Okay.
Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. We've received a few questions, but it looks like some people are writing 4 questions on one paper. I'll only take 1 question from one individual. So just write 1 question because we want to be fair to every individual. I've received a few that have already got 4 or 5. So just keep it to 1. Asant. Thanks. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. If I could ask the ladies to just send me some questions, and then I'll start proceedings off with Tilawat al-Quran, just to get the ball rolling, so I can filter through the questions. This is an announcement for those of you who are watching online. If you would like to text in any questions to myself, then you can text in on this mobile number, +44 7980 548 616. I repeat, +44 7980 548 616. If anyone here, please do not text me questions. I won't take any text questions from the public here. Just paper questions. Asant. Wa Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Maybe later, but we've got time. This is the answer last week.
Just a quick announcement. There's a few questions coming on Barzak to myself. This has already been talked about last week by Shaykh Shanawaz Medawi, so I'm not going to be taking any questions related on death and Barzak because it's been already we've already had an extensive question and answer on that the last couple of sessions. Asant. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Shaykh Usama, respected elders, my brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to welcome you all to today's Q&A session with Shaykh Usama. To start proceedings off, can I ask Zain Ali Ramtullah to come forward to recite Tilawat al-Quran? Please welcome him with a Nari Salawat.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Salawat.
Okay, just to repeat for the online viewers, I've been asked to repeat the mobile number. It's +44 7980 548 616. Ahsant. Okay, we'll start today's proceedings, and Shaykh will read out the question and he'll answer. Please welcome him with a nice salawat.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. If I can request those boys here to behave themselves, please. So we have several questions here, and we'll try to answer those which may be relevant to the topic, some of those which may be interesting, especially ones that deal with aqa'id. Okay, so here's a question that deals with aqidah. Isn't the rivalry between Hashim and Umayyah allow Wahhabis to dismiss Karbala as a tribal feud rather than a war between truth and falsehood? Is that the answer? Inshallah. So the answer is no, it doesn't, because yes, there was a tribal feud between those two. However, this tribal feud translated into a war between Abu Sufyan and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, war between kufr, a war between kufr and iman. And this war between kufr and iman carried through with Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan and Yazid ibn Muawiyah. So their claim that it was just a tribal feud, it's not logical, because the Prophet said that the argument of Imam al-Hussein on the day of Ashura, he said that I am, didn't you hear the hadith of the Prophet, my grandfather, about my brother and I, that those two are the masters of the youth in Jannah, and therefore he said, what right do you have in fighting against me? So at the very least, Imam al-Hussein was the Prophet's grandson and the master of the youth of Jannah. So what right did he have to kill him? So that argument is invalid. Plus, Imam Malik, his son Abdullah, asks him that, what do you think of Yazid ibn Muawiyah? And he said, what can I say about a man who's been cursed in the Quran several times? He said, how so? He gave him several examples. One of them, for example, he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that those who kill the believers are cursed in dunya and in the hereafter. And at the very least, Imam Hussein is a believer, a mu'min. At the very least, he's a mu'min. And another ayah, Allah says, those who hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi are cursed in dunya and in the hereafter. And this man hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi by killing his grandson. So this is Imam Malik, their Imam, saying these things. So this argument is not a valid argument. They're trying to justify any issue, make it like historical, or make it just a family, dilute it down, diffuse it. But when it comes to the fact, if you dig deeper, it's just a shell that they're creating and has no core. So their argument could easily be demolished. This is something that goes along the lectures. If Imam Ali's words harmonize with the Quran, what are the specific differences between the Quran and dua? Quran is the word of Allah, dua is the word of the Imam, the Ma'soom. So there's a huge difference. Okay, and of course the Quran is the book of authenticity, the most authentic book, in fact, that we have in Islam is the Holy Quran. And if anything, the dua are basically said by those who are the students of the Quran, and those are Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. And therefore we cannot equal, and I mentioned this clearly the other day in my lecture. I said when I say the words of Imam Ali harmonize with the Quran, I'm not saying the words of Imam Ali are equal to the Quran, and I said that explicitly in my lecture. So let's not make that confusion. All what we're saying is that he is the student of the Quran, and therefore when his words come out, they harmonize and texture with the context of the Holy Quran. It doesn't feel as if there's a gap. But his words compared to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing is compared to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we cannot compare that to the Holy Quran. Okay. Thank you. Who was the oldest person on Imam Hussein's army? A man by the name of Anas ibn Harith al-Kahili. Anas ibn Harith al-Kahili. This man fought with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi in the battle of Badr. Badr, the first battle of Muslims, he was with Rasulullah in that battle. Anas ibn Harith al-Kahili, and he was there in Ashura. He died in Karbala. So this man was over 100 years old in Karbala. He was the oldest. Who was in charge of Baytul Mal during the time of Imam Ali? A man by the name of Abdullah. He was in charge of the Baytul Mal. Did he delegate the responsibility to someone else? Yes, he did. I mean, of course, he can't manage everything on his own. So he had to delegate responsibilities to other people. He was overseeing, because everything is under his supervision. But he had to. I mean, he established a society. In a society, he cannot let angels govern, for example, with him and help him out. He has to have people who help him out. And that's why he sent Malik, for example, to Masr, to Egypt. Before Malik, he sent Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, radwanullah ta'ala alayhi, he got killed, and so on and so forth. So he sends people, I mean not angels, to govern with him. So he does definitely need the help of people, just like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa needed the help of people. And he delegates the tasks, but he oversees. He makes sure everything is done to as accurate as he could make them do it. How do I think myself the role of Marja'iyat should cater for the growing political needs of Shias around the world? We think of Marja'as as just those individuals sitting in their basically humble homes in Qom or Najaf or wherever they are, or Mashhad, and they don't really know anything about this world, and all they do is issue laws. There is unfortunately this misconception about the Maraja. Recently, one of the mu'mineen told me he went to talk to Ayatollah Sistani for an issue where he made a discovery. He's a professor at the university, and he made some discoveries with regarding to I guess pharmacology, a branch of science. And he spoke with Ayatollah Sistani about what he found, briefly. Now, his study was he took one of the fish which is not allowed to be eaten, the fish without scale. In Iraq, there is an area where this fish is served, where the Sunnis in Iraq, they eat it. They found that there is higher rate of sterility among those mu'mineen or those individuals who eat it. So he did some research where he took the oil, extracted the oil from this fish, and extracted oils from other fish that have scales, and he investigated its effect on the sperm. He found that when this oil hits the sperm, the one from the haram fish, the head and the tail of the sperm separate. So basically it becomes inactive. And he told basically his findings to Ayatollah Sistani. He said to him that, it's great that we know the reason. Ayatollah Sistani said, well, this is not really the reason. He said, you found an answer, but may not necessarily a reason. He said, how come? Why wouldn't you say that? He said, this is what he said. He says, Ayatollah Sistani told me, if we add an ester, he used that term, which is a chemical term. Those of you who are chemists, you know what I'm talking about. Esters, a class of chemicals. He said, if you add an ester to this oil, you will inactivate it, and therefore it will stop, its activity. It will not kill the sperms anymore. He said, so does that mean this fish will become halal then? So it's a great answer, if you think about it. He said, you found a reason, but this reason is not the reason why it is haram to eat this fish. Because what if you deactivate the reason? Then khalas, you've made it halal now? No, stays haram. So how does Ayatollah Sistani, this man was shocked. He said, how did he know the word ester? He says, unless he studied chemistry, basically. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we have this perception of our maraja that they're sitting in this basically, cave, quote unquote, and they really have no idea about what's going on in the world. And it's completely the opposite. They know exactly what's going on in the world. They read newspapers, they look at television news, they make sure they are up to date with the events, and they're quite involved politically too. When they bombed the shrine of Imam al-Askariyain alayhim as-salam in Samarra, if it were not for our maraja, may Allah bless them, who issued fatwa saying that it is haram for the Shia to attack the mosques of Sunnis or Muslims, there would have been a bloodbath and a civil war. Many Shia got angry. The shrine of our Imam got bombed, so we're going to retaliate. How? By attacking the other's mosque. The Maraja issued fatawa. It is haram to do so. So then the Shias were, basically contained. And their rage was contained. So we can't say the Maraja are not doing anything politically. This is not fair to the Maraja. So they get involved to whatever they see as best to get involved, and they have to consider that every fatwa they give, if a life is lost because of this fatwa, they will have to be accountable for this on the Day of Judgment, and therefore they will think 10 times before they issue a fatwa. Otherwise, we have Maraja in the past, when they saw it was necessary to fight a war, they declared war, like may Allah bless his soul, Al-Mujaddid al-Shirazi, Shaykh al-Shirazi, may Allah bless his soul, the one who led a revolution in the 20s in Iraq against the British army. He led a revolution. He declared jihad, he declared war. And he used to help to take khums money to give to the revolutionaries, to support them with weapons, to support them with ideas, and so on and so forth. So he led it. So we have Maraja who get involved politically. Let's not be fair, or unfair, sorry, to the Maraja by us thinking that they don't get involved, and so on and so forth. Hijab is must. Still, women do hijab but wear tight clothes, leggings to keep up with fashion, high heels, walking around with noisy jewelry, accessories with bells on it. You can tell from far somebody is coming. How do you explain this? Is this allowed? Quite interesting how they spell allowed. And of course the answer is no, because the ayah says, O Prophet, say to your wives and the wives of the believers that yudnina alayhinna min jalabibihin. Jilbab means loose clothing. So women should wear loose clothing, not tight clothing. And this is like a classic question. Every time I come here I get asked the same question. Maybe it's even the same person. So it's loose clothing. It is not tight. Tights are not allowed for men and for women. By the way, this is news for you guys, Even for men it's not allowed. Some men who wear these tight jeans that they're about to explode in them. Or some men also wear these weird jeans that when we pray in Salat they bend down and everything is shown, mashallah, in the back. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have heard of something called the belts. So this is not allowed. It's haram. You should wear something that is decent. It doesn't show what's not supposed to be shown. And these tights, whether for men or for women, they are provocative. You know, some women, when they look at men in these tights, it's provoking. So this is haram, it's not allowed. You cannot wear attire. And that's why even for those men, some men, for example, who are a bit built up, mashallah, you find them wearing these t-shirts that shows all their muscles and things. This could be provocative, and hence for those men it could be a problem, there could be an issue. They may be questionable. So wear clothes that are, you know, normal, decent, something that is not going to cause a problem in the society. Problem in the society. And of course it varies, there's no blanket for men, but this is the criteria. The criteria, that it should be decent clothing. For women, of course, has to be not tight. Has to be loose clothing, the hijab, the headscarf must be covered. So their whole body must be covered, head to toe, with the exception of the face and the hands up to the wrist. Okay, that's the exception. Okay. Otherwise, the whole body, not for example wearing the hijab behind the ear, like Mickey Mouse hijab, or for example, I don't know, showing the hair and just doing there, and so on and so forth. Or like some ladies, you know, sometimes I walk in the markets and they see me, all of a sudden, the minute they see me, Allah is watching you. Who's Usama? You know, why are you afraid of me? Allah is watching you. He's seeing you. But you know, so that's the criteria. Wearing makeup in public where non-mahrams are going to see you is haram, is not allowed for ladies. You are allowed to wear makeup, but not wear a place where non-mahrams can see you. That's not allowed. Wearing all these jingles like Santa Claus, you know, it's not allowed. So all these bells and whistles are not allowed because they attract attention. At the very least, if they're not haram, at the very least there is a shubuha. Shubuha means there is a doubtful act here, where it could be a problematic act. Okay, at the very least. If it's not a haram, then it's in that category. So why take chances? Why take chances? Okay. And these high heels, I remember one day I was in the classroom, you know, and we were in the classroom at the university, and this prof was teaching us, and this lady walks by, you know, this professor, you know, he himself is a Canadian guy, you know, and we're like only 6 students in the class, you know. This was back when I was doing my PhD. So he looks at us, he says, if I ever become the president of a university, I will ban high heels. This is this guy, he's a Canadian, he's not even a Muslim, nothing, but see, subhanAllah, logic. It distracts, it's annoying, so it distracts, and this distraction could be a problem, because that's then people will start looking towards the direction of the, you know, the distraction. Okay, so it could be a problem here. And we're not saying don't wear them, we're not saying, all we're saying is that avoid wearing attire that will attract, if they don't fall in the boundaries of Islam. Of course, okay. So don't wear attire that will not fall in the boundaries of Islam and Sharia. Okay. Alhamdulillah, I don't wear glasses so far, but I think after tonight I might have to start wearing glasses. So the question asked about adoption. When a person adopts someone, this child is not mahram when he grows or she grows, and yes. So the question says, why Islam is so strict? It's not being strict, these are the laws. Now the question says, isn't it highly encouraged to adopt an orphan? Yes, it is. That doesn't mean that they make him mahram, unless the wife has milk and she can basically adopt, or they adopt a baby who is still breastfeeding, and the wife can feed this baby 15 or more nurses, cumulative. So the baby is feeding not formula but her own milk for 15 or more feedings, full feedings, where he gets filled and he gets filled up, and in that case then he or she becomes a mahram, because he becomes a son or a daughter by rida'a, you know, through breastfeeding. In that case, then no problem. Then in that case he cannot marry or she cannot marry the siblings. The father is a mahram, the mother becomes a mahram, and so on. In that case, yes. But this is only if it's a baby within the nursing age. Okay. So otherwise, no. It's highly, yes, recommended you adopt an orphan and so on and so forth. But if he becomes baligh or she becomes baligha, then the hijab requirements must be maintained. I have heard that Imam Hussein is the Ark of Salvation. How can we communicate with him? Ziyarat Ashura, Ziyarat Warid, these are all ways for us. When you say Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, who are you talking with? Talk to Imam Hussein, so read the ziyarah. I find reading the Quran and dua really boring. Please advise how can I make it more interesting. I don't blame you. Sometimes when dua and Quran, I mean, we have a hadith about this. This is not a joke. We have a hadith that say when you get someone to read the Quran or the dua, get someone with a good voice. There's a hadith in Bihar al-Anwar. Allama Majlisi narrates some hadith from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam that he said that suggests when you get someone to read the Quran or the dua, get someone with a good voice. It makes a huge difference. If you have someone with not a good voice, I mean, yes, the barakah is there, but there is a reason why the Imam is suggesting to have someone with a good voice. And that's why I personally feel that in Ramadan, the time when there is, dua has a big role. Like you have dua Jawshan, you have dua Abu Hamza. People, organizations should recruit, hire, bring, invite people with good voices to recite the du'as. And with all respect to the community, some people might come say, I made a nadr that I read dua Jawshan. No problem. May Allah bless you, but keep your nadr for another time, not for this month of Ramadan. Or children, for example, it's great to encourage them to read Quran and all this, but I personally feel on big nights they should not be allowed to read. This is just my personal humble opinion. You can take it or leave it. And the reason is because you want professionals to recite that people's hearts start to soften. That's the point. It's not just to add barakah. I mean, the barakah is there, but there is a reason why the Imam say have someone with a good voice to recite, because a good voice makes a big difference. So when you have someone reciting with not such a great voice, it could create the factor of boredom because the people just don't enjoy the dua anymore, the tune of the dua and listening to the dua anymore. So that is something important. That could be one factor. Another factor could be the lack of understanding. They don't understand Arabic, of course, and so they find it very boring. In that case, the good way, yesterday, for example, you guys have the screen with the translation underneath it. So that's good. Or at least advise people about the significance and the importance of reading the dua. Advise them. So adding the translation is one thing. Getting someone with a good voice to recite is another thing. Explaining to those people the importance of the dua, even if you don't understand it. Just like the story I gave about the Quran a couple nights ago, if you remember that basket story, those of you who were around, how the basket gets cleansed, even though you may feel that there's nothing, no help, but it is actually helping, because this is the word of Ma'soom. In many cases you have people listening to these du'as, and just the way, the tune of the du'a, the words of the du'a, even if they don't understand it, you find them crying, because really it has an impact. This is the word of the Ma'soom alayhi salam. So if we can explain parts of the du'a to our youths, part of it, explain it to them. What does it really talk about? Very briefly, like du'a Kumail, for example, when you talk about فأتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما, and so on and so forth. What is really Imam is saying here? He's talking about the istighfar. I'm coming back to you, Ya Allah. I'm repenting to you, Ya Allah. Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rab, Ya Ilahi, wa Sayyidi, wa Mawlaya, wa Malika Riqi, and so on. What is Imam saying here? So at least when this person reads the dua, he knows he has a general overview of what the dua means, and hopefully this would promote this interest factor. I want to believe. I suffer from a lack in aqidah. I want to believe but cannot. I am plagued by doubts. When I pray it is hollow. Some things seem like fairy tales. How do I build faith? With regards to aqidah, it is common sense. It is logical. Look, read some of the arguments in Kitab al-Tawheed. There is a book of Tawheed by Shaykh al-Saduq, which has been translated in English. It's available and you can order it. Read it. Read at some of the arguments of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam with some of the atheists of his times, and see how he clearly keeps them basically in their tracks, stopped in their tracks. So he shows to them aqidah is clear, it's something we believe. And he does not use an ayah in the Quran or a hadith from the Prophet. No, he uses logical arguments where he just keeps them quiet. I mean, they have no way to respond to him. So when it comes to aqa'id, read such books that talk about. So I'm giving you one reference, Kitab al-Tawheed by Shaykh al-Saduq, the book of Tawheed by Shaykh al-Saduq. In it you'll find some arguments by Imam al-Rida and Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Both of those imams have some interesting arguments with zanadiqa or atheists, people who reject religion. So read this book for sources. A second thing, you say my salat is hollow. This is waswasa of shaitan. Shaitan is coming to you and trying to make you feel that salat, you're praying this whole salat and it's useless because you cannot concentrate in your salat. Therefore, what's the point of you praying salat? And unfortunately we start to get fooled and trapped into his basically trap. Say, yeah, that's true, you know, there's no point of me praying my salat, so let me stop. That's exactly what he wants you to do, to stop salat. But this salat, you should continue with it, because at least 5 times a day, what you're doing is, Yarhamkumullah Haji, mashallah. Any more? No? Inshallah, Allah bless you, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad for this mu'min, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Maybe you're developing allergic reactions to me actually, in my words. So at least 5 times a day you're getting up, you're doing wudu, you know, you're standing on the mihrab, you're facing the qibla, you're saying Allahu Akbar, even though it may appear to you as if this is nothing. Again, we go back to this basket story of the Quran, that you may think that it is not affecting anything, it's not changing anything, but it is having an effect. The fact that you are being reminded 5 times a day that I have a call of duty that I need to respond to, in itself shows that you have some connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let us not listen to these whispers of shaitan. There is a nice, very, very short dua. It is found in Mafatih al-Jinan. Mafatih al-Jinan, the big version, not the small, you know, English version, because that's only an abbreviated version. You know, the blue book, that's an no, go for the full, the real Mafatih al-Jinan, the real deal. In the section of the du'as after Salat al-Fajr, there is one short line that's recommended to be recited 10 times after Salat al-Fajr and 10 times before the time of Maghrib. It says, أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بالله أن يحضرون إن الله سميع عليم. Okay, so this sentence there, I know you're not going to memorize it, but you can find it in Mafatih al-Jinan after the du'as of Fajr prayers. Read this, because it keeps a person away from the whispers of the shaitan. Okay, that's second. Third, the environment we live in is very important. If a person is living in an environment where it's all music, bombarded by music, by all these dance videos, wal-iyadu billah, he's looking at them, or you know, these videos and these magazines, if that is the environment, then this is such a contaminated environment that takes us away from Allah, wal-iyadu billah. Of course, we need to cleanse this environment a little bit to the best of our ability. You know, listen to the Quran, listen to the dua, praying the salat, coming to the majalis of Ahlul Bayt. These environments cleanses our hearts a little bit, so it helps us. So changing the environment is also important. Other than that, I would also recommend to this individual who asked the question, you can go and talk to some of the scholars or lecturers you have in your city or wherever you live, and ask them, meet one-on-one with them to discuss some of these issues, because sometimes people go to universities and they start learning about philosophy, learning about evolution, learning about something, and all of a sudden they say, my God, so what do I do now? You know, this sounds so reasonable, how do I fight against it? And they don't know how to refute the argument, so then it starts creating doubts in their minds. Whereas if you ask a lecturer, you ask somebody who knows what he's talking about, an alim, then he'll show you how these arguments that they present is, like I said, just a shell. You dig a little bit deeper and the whole thing collapses. No core, there's no essence into it. But they're being taught as laws, not theories. Well, in fact, they're theories, but the way they are taught is like a law. Freud is law nowadays. Darwin is a law. You know, idealists are law, and so on and so forth. Just theories. But the way they're taught, the way the arguments are presented as such, so we just need to equip people of how to defend them. No, forget that. Yeah. Why is it that all the mujtahids have different opinions? First of all, not all the mujtahids have different opinions. Some of the maraja have differing opinions. And this, of course, depends on issues where the role of the faqih is to derive laws. His role is to derive laws. That's what a faqih, that's what a marja does. He derives them from where? From Quran, from the Sunnah, the Holy Prophet and the Imams alayhimus salam, from the aql and from the ijma'. Four venues. I'm not here to discuss what they all mean, but nonetheless he sits down, analyzes the hadith, the Quran, the verses, and so on and so forth, and he derives law, the hukum. Now, when it comes to the majority of our laws, they almost all agree on them. You know, we don't have an issue, for example, with one of the maraja, for example, saying that no, you should close your hands during salat, and another one saying no, you should open them. We don't have, like the others do. Imam Malik says it is makruh to do like this and pray like this. He says makruh. The others say no, it's mustahab, you should do it. Okay. So what do I do, makruh or mustahab? There's a great contrast here between one saying makruh and the other one saying mustahab. Okay. So we don't have such. But and when it comes to certain laws, they differ. They have different opinions. Some, for example, when it comes to Hajj, they say if you become a muhrim, then you cannot travel in a car that is shaded, that has a roof, even if it's at night. Not allowed. Others say no, if it's at night, it's permissible. However, it should not be raining, for example. It should not be raining. If it's raining, then you have to travel without a roof. Okay, and so on. So this is a minor opinion difference. Some also have differing opinions when it comes to politics, political opinions. So this is basically their analysis, and because they are mujtahideen, we respect their differing opinions. And this is not just with mujtahideen, by the way. I did my PhD, one of the theories I did was kidney stones, studying kidney stones. And scientists basically have differing opinions as how do they form, how do kidney stones form. Some group says one way, another group says another way. So I mean, it exists even in science. I worked on diabetes, and 80% of diabetic patients die of a heart attack. 80% die of a heart attack. So 4 out of 5. Question is why? They have differing opinions. Scientists have different opinions as to why the heart fails in diabetic patients. There's different opinion. So people have different opinions. It's not that they deliberately want to have a different opinion, but this is the best ability of their studies and analyses. They come to this conclusion. Okay, our maraji', and this is just an analogy here. This is not to say that they are like these ulama who look at the research of other scholars. You know, here we're talking about ulama looking at the Holy Quran, our maraja', the Holy Quran, and the Sunnah of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So it's a bit different here. But just to draw the picture closer, that you have a disagreement sometimes, even in the academic world, people have different theories. So it's normal.
I won't be taking any more questions from the floor because we've got quite a few here, and I keep on getting the same question repeated by the boys. So cut that out, please.
Do we get the same thawab or amount of thawab when reading the Quran from an iPad mini as we would from the actual Quran book? Well, what about if you read from an iPad, not a mini, or maybe an iPhone? It's even smaller. Yes, the thawab is the same. Yes, as long as you're reading the Quran. I have heard Fatima al-Alila or Fatima al-Sughra, that of Imam Hussein, was disabled. How could this happen in a pure family? Also, question 2, why is Imam Sajjad alayhi salam called Bimar Karbala, or the sick, the ill of Karbala, when he was 21 and ill due to imamat needs? Okay, so first of all, how could this happen to a pure family? Remember, the ma'soomeen are 14. The children are not necessarily ma'soomeen. Children of the imams, not all of them are ma'soomeen. You have ma'soomeen are 14. So those who are not ma'soom, They're just normal human beings. In fact, even our imams, remember, they're humans. They may be ill, they can get ill, like Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, he got ill, you know. So the person, when he says, how could he be called Bimar Karbala? Because he was sick in Karbala, he was ill. That's why they call him Bimar Karbala, the sick. He was sick in Karbala. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had wisdom in making him ill in Karbala, so that he does not have to do jihad. Jihad doesn't become wajib upon him. Otherwise jihad would have been wajib, because the ma'soom in his time, the imam of his time, is calling for jihad. Amam al-Nasirin yansuruni. So he had to respond, but the call of duty is not wajib upon him because he's ill. So to say that, oh, he was ill due to imam, so how can we call him ill? Well, you just stated, you contradicted yourself, where you said that he was ill in Karbala, you know. So he was ill, but he was ill, Allah had a wisdom for it. So sometimes our imams alayhim salam, remember, you know, the famous story of Amir al-Mu'mineen in Khaybar, when the Prophet called Imam Ali, he said, where is Imam Ali? Why didn't he come? You tell me. How many don't know the story? Why didn't Imam Ali come initially? People are scratching their eyes, you know. He was sick. His eyes had ramad, you know, a type of some infection. So he's a ma'soom. Doesn't mean he's immune from diseases, illnesses, but the illnesses do not overtake their aql, their mind. It doesn't take their aql, their power. As a ma'soom, his illness doesn't take his aql. You know, it's not like, for example, sometimes you might find a person who's ill and he starts hallucinating, or God forbid, for example, some of those illnesses, like Alzheimer's, like such illnesses where the mind starts to get affected. They don't get these illnesses, okay? But otherwise regular illnesses. Remember also in Surah Al-Insan, هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا, where we say that Imam Ali and Fatima al-Zahra fasted. Why did they fast for 3 days? What was the reason behind the fast? Because Imam Hassan and Hussein were ill, so they made another that if Allah gave them recovery, they will fast for 3 days. So they do get ill, but their illness, first of all, does not overtake their aql. And so the illness does not overtake their aql, their mind, but it shows, it demonstrates that imams do get ill. Okay? And so of course, if the imam gets ill, why wouldn't his daughter get ill, who's not a ma'sooma? No, she will get ill. And being disabled, I'm not sure about that actually. I think that you've gone a bit too far. She was ill, not necessarily disabled. Okay? It doesn't mean that she cannot get disabled. You know, I'm not saying the daughter of a ma'soom could become disabled. Okay? Although it's a pure family, but she was not ma'sooma herself. A ma'soom doesn't get disabled. That's definite. Because the ma'soom, one of the definitions of isma is perfection physically, spiritually, and mentally. Complete perfection. So not a single ma'soom had any defect. Okay? Physically and otherwise. Okay, so a ma'soom doesn't get, but you know, someone who's not a ma'soom, even if he's a son of a ma'soom. You know, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, the son of Imam Ali, who held the banner in Siffin, a great man, he was ill. And he could not join Imam Hussein alayhi salam because of an illness he had. In Arabic they call it sara', which is, I don't know what kind of psychological disorder he had. A sara', where, not psychological, sorry, where a state where he starts shivering. You know, he starts shivering and he would not be able when the state gets to him. But he was a son of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, and a great man himself. So just because somebody is a ma'soom, the bottom line doesn't mean that they're immune from illness. However, the illness does not overtake their aql. The question reads the following: is Hawza of Jabal Amil, which is southern Lebanon, established by Abu Dhar al-Ghafari in South Lebanon, operating till today? And the answer is no. The Hawza was not established by Abu Dhar al-Ghafari. The people of Jabal Amil became Shia because of Abu Dhar al-Ghafari. Okay, so that's the answer. Okay, so the Hawza was not established by him, but they became Shia because of him. Yeah. Islamic women are trying to achieve the balance between a career, an Islamic family home, and a social life. Does Islam support this? That is a very difficult question to answer. The question goes back to you. What do you want to achieve in your life? What do you really want to do? Do you want to take your children, put them in daycare, and have the daycare carer, the giver, you know, they raise your children for you? If you're pleased with that, you're okay with that, there is nothing haram about that. There's nothing, you know, Sharia wise, nothing wrong with that. Or would you rather you yourself raise your children and teach them and educate them and make sure that they're well looked after, their akhlaq, their manners, because the caretakers are not there to teach them ethics, not there to teach them akhlaq and behavior. They're there just to keep them alive. That's the role. They just want to keep them alive. So sometimes they open the television for them for 8 hours and they just watch television. When the time of food comes, they give them some food. Whether they eat, they don't eat, they don't really look after them. This is not really responsibility. Their responsibility is to make sure that this person is looked after for the 8 hours. So it's up to you as a family, a husband and a wife, to decide what do you want to do. If that is what you choose, it's your choice. It's your choice. However, if you feel uncomfortable, you don't want to do this, you want to teach your children, you want to raise them, you want to look after them, then again that is your choice. Well, that choice will come with a sacrifice, and the sacrifice will be a career. So you may have to give up your career. It's up to you to decide what you want to do. But the Quran says قل, or says, sorry, not قل, لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون. You will not achieve birr, which is the essence of religion, unless you spend of what you like the most. And this is not necessarily money. Spending sometimes could be spending or sacrificing a career. Could be sometimes spending compassion, giving this love, because the hug that mother gives to her son or to her daughter, that hug and that kiss fuels this man or fuels this boy, the child or the girl, fuels them with emotions. Why is it highly mustahab that a woman nurses a baby and not give them formula, like breastfeed them, for example? It's highly mustahab. Why? Is because once the baby is not just drinking milk from this mother, he's taking compassion, he's listening to the heartbeat, as some recent research has shown. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam was asked which side should the mother feed the baby from. He said it's preferable if she feeds him from the left side. Imam al-Shafi'i was asked the same question. He said no difference, right or left, it doesn't matter, milk will come either way. Research in the 20th century showed that it is better to breastfeed from the left side. Why? Because the heart of the mother is on the left side, and the baby, as he breastfeeds, he listens to the beat of the heart of the mother, which is a sound that he was familiar with when he was in the womb of the mother. So that sound gives him comfort. It's a sound that he's familiar with since he was, in the jacuzzi or the spa, back in the good old days, where everything is done for him, simultaneously without having to worry about anything of this world. So this makes him feel, which tells you there is some connection, some bond. And this bond is amazing for the mother and for the child. Ask any nursing mother about her feeling. She said, I cannot describe the feeling as I'm nursing my baby. It's such a joyful feeling. And that's why Allah takes this moment, the moment of the nursing of the mother and the child, and He says, when the Qiyamah comes, in Surah Al-Hajj, when the Qiyamah comes, the feeling and the greatness of the Qiyamah will be even greater than the feeling that this mother has, this bond of this mother with the baby, such that the mother will throw away the baby and will run away out of the fear of that day. يوم تذهل كل مرضعة عما أرضعت which means every nursing mother in the state of nursing, while she's feeding the baby, when the Qiyamah comes, she'll throw the baby. And so imagine how great that day is. So Allah recognizes this. And so going back, it is your personal choice. Your choice. Do you want to raise the child, or do you want to put them, for example, in these institutions that will look after them? And I personally feel nobody can really raise a child like his mother and his father, not even the grandmother or the grandfather, with all due respect to grandparents. The grandparents are great, of course. If you want to go out and take a break, leave the child with them for 2 hours, 3 hours, they'll spoil them for you. Grandparents are amazing. Our parents, with us, they were beating us, with sticks. When it comes to the grandchild, Habibi, what about me when I was his age? You beat me. Anyways, so They just spoil the kid. I mean, we don't blame them, but their ability, they're much older now. For example, they don't have the capacity. With all due respect to the grandparents, I'm not trying to say anything here, but I'm trying to say that Allah, for a reason, gave the responsibility and the obligation to raise the children to the parents and not to the grandparents. Okay? So there's a reason for that. So they should take that responsibility seriously, but like I said, religiously speaking, it is up to you to decide what do you want to choose. Islam encourages women to study, encourages them to have careers, but then it is up to them to decide when they have children, what do they want to do with them. Okay? So that's a personal choice, and I'm not here to tell you what's right or what's wrong. Why is it so hot here? Don't you guys have air conditioning? Or turn this on. Where's Muki?
He's gone.
He's gone. Okay, I don't want to do his ghiba. Okay, so. I asked for Muki, I didn't ask for you to speak. So let's go with this one. In today's society, social interactions between males and females have become a loose term. For example, mixed wedding receptions, shisha bars, etc. Where would you draw the line? What is permitted? I touched upon this, I think, a couple days ago in some of my lectures, where I said when you have weddings where there's music, for example, and you have a mixed gathering where some ladies come dressed inappropriately, because it's a wedding, so they're wearing basically wedding gowns almost, or wedding attire, and their face is fully in colors, mashallah. So in such cases, it's haram. It's haram. Such areas, one should not be there. So same thing applies elsewhere, shisha bars and things like that, coffee bars, never mind coffee, go for coffee. Sometimes you find men, boys and girls sitting together having coffee, and they're laughing and joking, ha 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 ha, that's funny. This is all not allowed. It's all haram. So the social hijab must be observed. This falls under the banner of social hijab. Same thing applies even online. Sometimes if you take a look at Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and those things, you find what's the strange pictures that people pose of themselves. Some sisters or some brothers, where they have this bandana and whatever, or like this girl's sitting like this. There are issues with this. This could be haram. These actions could be actions that may not be permissible in religion. So these boundaries are to be observed even online when you're doing social media. Men and women joking, for example, online, he sends a message, she sends back another with a big LOL, and ... happy face reply, and so on and so forth. That could fall under the banner of, at very least, shubha. Shubha means yellow lines here now, or gray lines. You're falling under the gray lines here. So avoid, because the hadith says, أمير المؤمنين tells Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba عليه السلام, يا بني إن هذه الدنيا في حلالها حساب وفي حرامها عقاب وفي الشبهات عتاب. This dunya, the actions that you do that are halal and permissible, you'll be held accountable for in the akhirah. In the akhirah, for example, Allah will ask you, where did you get your money from and how did you spend it? Although you earned it in halal places, you did not do something haram, inshallah, but Allah will ask you, well, how did you earn your money? You say, Allah, I worked 9 to 5, I studied, for example, I did this, I did that. Okay. So that's check. Your earning is checked. How did you spend the money? Well, ya Allah, I gave to orphans, I bought a house, I did this, I did that. Okay, so that's checked, if everything gets checked. Okay. So that's a halal. The halal you'll get questioned on. Okay. The haram you'll be punished for. Iqab. Okay. في حلالها حساب. There will be hisab, which means they'll judge you on the halal. Haramiha, when you do haram, there is iqab, punishment. وفي الشبهات عتاب. Shubuhat, the gray areas. Allah will talk to the individual in the gray area, say, so why did you do this? You know, or at least you shouldn't have done this. You should not. And you don't want to have that, you know, kind of talk on the day of judgment. As is, will be standing there for God knows how many years, sweating and so if anything we can do to decrease our stand on that day before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should do it and try it. So shubuhat, itab, you know, leave the shubuhat. Like this man who came to one of the maraja ulama, may Allah bless his soul. He told him, in this day and age it is very difficult not to do a sin. This day and age, how can you not even do a ma'asiyah? This malja looked at him, he said, what are you talking about? He said, for 40 years I have not even done a makruh. Makruh. Never mind a ma'asiyah, a sin. He says, for the past 40 years, not 40 days, 40 years, I have not done a makruh. Walking and eating is makruh, for example. To walk and to eat. We all do it, you know, especially living in this part, you know, students in universities, everyone, you know, and they run on the walk because they're late for classes. So that's how we are. It's makruh. It's not haram, makruh. Makruh. Allah wants us when we eat to sit down and really reflect upon the meal and say, start Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, finish with Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, you know. If you run the gun on the run, you know, eat, how will you remember all these things? How will you even appreciate the meal that you have? Okay. Anyways, it's not haram, it's makruh. So, this man said, I have not even done the makruh. Makruh, never mind the haram. So here, you know, we have such a great ulama and scholars who demonstrate this ability. So why did he not even do the makruh for 40 years? Because he does not want, you know, Allah on the day of judgment to tell him, Ya Fulan, you were alim a faqih. So how did you do the makruh? Why did you do the makruh? Why? It is not recommended to do this act. Why did you do it? Because you're a alim, you're a faqih. Now, maybe he thought about it. Maybe Allah won't ask. Now, Allah, out of His rahmah, He may not ask. Out of His mercy. Maybe the shafa'ah of Ahlul Bayt will include him. But he does not even want to keep himself prone to such a question. So what I'm trying to say is that, you know what, this is how we should try to do with our actions. And therefore, when it comes to these interactions, we should not do something that is questionable. Whether it is online, whether it is in shisha bars, as you said, whether it is in other places. So Allah is first. Haqq is first. If people want to get angry at me, let them get angry. This is haqq. If my family wants to disown me because I did not attend their family's wedding when it was haram, let them disown me. Let them disassociate themselves from me. Let them not boycott me. It's up to them. I will continue talking to them, emailing them, calling them. I will not do qat' al-rahim. If they want to do it, let them do it. As long as I'm pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I don't really care. No? This is Allah's first. And then the family. Otherwise, Zubair was Imam Ali's cousin. No? He put Allah's first, not Zubair first. Even if he had to fight a war against him, just let it be. If he wants to fight a war, let him fight a war.
Okay. I'd like to thank Shaykh for his time in answering the questions. Just a few announcements. There's another seminar tomorrow after the main program. I believe I've got the seminar title correct. It's Islamic Views on Scientific Concepts, i.e. the Big Bang Theory and Evolution. And also in the ladies and gents, there's these buckets. Husseini youth are collecting some money, so please empty your pockets and put any loose change in. Can we all stand for ziyarat now, please?
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريتك علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن أجل الله تعالى فرجه سهل الله مخرجه وظهورك واجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك خشيتك وغفرانك عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم قل لوليك حجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وأينا حتى تسكنه أرزقا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
There's food being served, if you just bear with us. Could I ask the ladies to go into their side? The food will be served there. Asant. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Very good.